Madison Square Garden, New York City, September 7, 2001. The iconic arena hummed with the particular energy that emerges when history is poised to unfold before 20,000 witnesses. The occasion was Michael Jackson's 30th anniversary celebration, a pair of tribute concerts marking 3 decades since the launch of his solo career, bringing together an extraordinary lineup of performers to honor the king of pop's legacy. Tonight was the second and final show, following a star-studded first night that had already generated headlines across the globe. For Michael Jackson, these concerts represented a complex intersection of past and present. At 43, he stood at a pivotal moment in his career. His unparalleled achievements of the 1980s and early 90s now balanced against the controversies and challenges that had increasingly defined his public narrative in subsequent years. These anniversary concerts, broadcast on national television and meticulously produced, were positioned as both celebration of his historic impact and potential catalyst for a new creative chapter. The audience that filled Madison Square Garden that evening represented a cross-section of global influence. Political figures, Hollywood royalty, music industry power players, and fortunate fans who had secured tickets to the exclusive event. The anticipation that charged the atmosphere centered not just on Michael's performance, which would close the show, but on the unprecedented gathering of musical talent that had assembled to pay tribute to his legacy. What almost no one in that audience knew, what only a handful of insiders were aware of, was that the carefully planned production was about to encounter an unscripted variable that would transform the evening from historic celebration to legendary moment. Prince, whose complex relationship with Michael had been the subject of media speculation and industry mythology for decades, had arrived unannounced at Madison Square Garden just as the show was beginning. The two artists, often positioned as rivals by press narratives, despite their distinct musical approaches and artistic visions, had never performed together publicly. Their rare interactions at industry events had been characterized by careful mutual acknowledgement rather than genuine connection. Their relationship shaped more by external comparisons than personal exchange. Prince's unexpected appearance backstage created an immediate current of nervous energy among the production team. The meticulously structured show, planned down to the second and synchronized with elaborate technical elements, had no contingency for spontaneous additions, particularly one of such potentially seismic significance. Michael's team moved quickly to manage the situation, establishing a secondary green room and ensuring Prince's presence remained unknown to Michael himself, who was in the final stages of preparation for his performance. The implicit understanding, conveyed through respectful but firm production protocols, was that while Prince was welcome to observe the show, any disruption to the planned program would be prevented. For most of the evening, the tribute unfolded according to design. A procession of major artists, Whitney Houston, Mary J. Blige, Destiny's Child, and others, performed Michael's songs or their own hits dedicated to his influence, each introduced by celebrities ranging from Elizabeth Taylor to Chris Tucker. The audience responded with appropriate appreciation to these excellent but expected elements of the production. The atmosphere shifted subtly when Michael himself finally took the stage for the concert's final segment. His entrance, emerging from beneath the stage in a characteristic moment of theatrical spectacle, generated a response that transcended ordinary performer-audience dynamics. This wasn't merely appreciation for exceptional entertainment, but a collective recognition of generational impact. 20,000 people acknowledging an artist whose work had shaped the cultural landscape they all inhabited. Michael began his set with a carefully chosen sequence of his most iconic hits, each performed with the precision and emotional commitment that had defined his approach throughout his career. Despite the physical toll of health challenges that remained private at that time, his performance demonstrated the particular magic that had always separated him from even the most talented of his contemporaries. The seamless integration of technical excellence, musical sensitivity, and a presence that somehow reached every corner of even the largest venues. It was during the transition to Billie Jean, the song whose Motown 25 performance had launched him into the stratosphere of global fame, that the evening's unexpected turning point occurred. As the distinctive opening bass line began to pulse through Madison Square Garden's sophisticated sound system, a subtle but significant disruption manifested at the side of the stage. Security personnel spoke urgently into headsets. Production staff moved with unusual haste through areas normally kept clear during performances. Those seated close enough to the stage to observe these details sensed the shift in energy without understanding its cause, a ripple of unplanned activity beneath the polished surface of the production. What none of them knew was that Prince had made an executive decision. Despite the careful management of his presence and the implicit agreement that he would remain an observer, he had chosen this particular moment to create a different outcome. With the characteristic determination that had defined his career of boundary-pushing independence, he had simply walked past the barriers intended to separate backstage areas from the performance space, moving with such purpose that the initial security response had been momentarily paralyzed by uncertainty. As Michael prepared to perform the iconic song that had defined popular culture in the early 1980s, the legendary opening hat-tilt pose already executed to thunderous audience response, a second spotlight suddenly illuminated another figure at the edge of the stage. Prince, dressed in a purple suit of his own design that provided both contrast and complement to Michael's gold-embellished black ensemble, stood motionless, a white guitar slung across his body. The audience reaction was immediate and overwhelming, a wave of sound that contained shock, disbelief, and the particular quality of witness that emerges when something unprecedented unfolds before a massive gathering. Those who had been filming the concert on primitive early 2000 cell phones instinctively raised them higher, understanding on some level that they were about to document a moment of genuine cultural significance. On stage, Michael registered the disruption, his peripheral vision catching both the unexpected spotlight and the audience's shifted focus. Years of professional experience allowed him to maintain his performance without visible reaction, but those who knew him well would have recognized the microscopic tensing that indicated his awareness of an unplanned development in his meticulously controlled performance environment. For a long moment, perhaps 5 seconds that felt much longer to those experiencing it in real time, nothing happened beyond this tableau of potential. Michael continued the opening sequence of Billie Jean. Prince remained motionless at the edge of the spotlight, and 20,000 people collectively held their breath in anticipation of what might follow. It was Michael who made the decisive move. With a slight adjustment to his positioning that acknowledged Prince's presence while maintaining the integrity of his own performance, he executed a subtle gesture toward the band, a signal instantly understood by musicians who had worked with him for years. The arrangement shifted, creating a musical space that could accommodate a second element while preserving the essential structure of the iconic song. This small but significant adaptation contained volumes of communication. It wasn't surrender to disruption but integration of the unexpected, the hallmark of a master performer capable of incorporating spontaneity into precision. The gesture conveyed both professional respect and acceptance of the challenge implicit in Prince's appearance. Prince recognized this communication for exactly what it was. With characteristic deliberate movement, he stepped fully into his spotlight and played the first notes on his guitar. Not a random embellishment, but a carefully chosen phrase that complemented the existing musical structure while establishing his own distinctive voice within it. What followed was described by legendary music producer Quincy Jones, who was present that night, as 3 minutes of the most extraordinary musical conversation I've witnessed in 60 years in this business, two singular artists finding a third space between their individual languages without either compromising the essence of their own voice. If the story moves you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more moments that define the king of pop's extraordinary journey. Prince's guitar work provided not accompaniment but counterpoint to Michael's vocal and movement performance, an additional layer that created new dimensions in the familiar song rather than competing with its established elements. His playing demonstrated the virtuosic technical skill for which he was renowned, but with a sensitivity to context that revealed a deeper musicality beyond mere display. Michael, responding to this musical offering, adjusted elements of his performance in real time, subtle variations in his vocal phrasing, adaptations to his movement vocabulary that acknowledged and incorporated the new musical elements Prince was introducing. These weren't concessions but conversations, one master artist recognizing and building upon the contributions of another. The audience, witnessing this unrehearsed integration of two singular creative approaches, responded with a depth of engagement that transcended ordinary performance reaction. The energy in Madison Square Garden transformed from appreciation to something approaching reverence, 20,000 people collectively recognizing that they were present for a moment of genuine artistic communion that transcended the constructed narratives of rivalry that had surrounded these two innovative creators. As Billie Jean reached its conclusion, Michael and Prince found themselves center stage, much closer in physical proximity than either had been to the other in their parallel public lives. For a brief moment, as the final notes faded and before the audience response filled the vacuum, they regarded each other directly, an acknowledgement that contained recognition not of competition but of shared territory at the highest elevation of artistic achievement. The applause that followed wasn't merely enthusiastic but qualitatively different from standard performance appreciation. A sound that contained recognition of having witnessed something beyond entertainment, beyond even exceptional artistic display. This was the response to a moment of authentic connection between two revolutionary creators who had each, in their distinctive ways, redefined the possibilities of popular music. What happened next transformed an already extraordinary moment into something approaching transcendence. Without verbal discussion but with the intuitive communication of master musicians, Michael and Prince seamlessly transitioned into an unplanned encore, the band following their lead as they created a spontaneous medley that wove together signature elements from both their catalogs. Phrases from Purple Rain merged with motifs from Man in the Mirror, the musical themes finding unexpected harmonic and rhythmic compatibility despite their different origins. Prince's guitar and Michael's voice, two of the most distinctive instrumental sounds in popular music, engaged in a call and response that displayed not just their individual brilliance, but the particular magic that emerges when great artists engage in genuine creative dialogue. The physical performance mirrored this musical integration. Michael incorporated elements of Prince's more fluid movement vocabulary into his precisely choreographed approach. Prince adjusted his characteristic stage presence to create visual harmony with Michael's distinctive performance style. Neither was imitating the other. Both were finding a third expression that honored both their differences and their shared foundation in Black performance traditions. Throughout Madison Square Garden, the response continued to build, not just in volume but in emotional intensity. People who had come expecting excellent entertainment found themselves moved in a more fundamental way by this unexpected demonstration of artistic communion. There were visible tears on the faces of audience members ranging from hardened music industry veterans to celebrities known for their carefully maintained public composure. As the spontaneous medley reached its conclusion, Michael and Prince created a final moment of unified expression, their distinctive voices joining in harmony on a phrase that could have belonged to either of their catalogs, but in that moment transcended individual ownership to become a shared statement. The note hung in the air for what seemed an impossibly long time, two of music's most powerful vocalists supporting each other in sustained expression. When the sound finally faded and the stage lights dimmed slightly to signal the performance's conclusion, the two artists regarded each other once more. A look that contained volumes of communication inaccessible to even the 20,000 witnesses to this historic moment. Then, with a gesture as surprising as it was genuine, Prince extended his hand. The simple offering, neither surrender nor calculated public relations but acknowledgement of shared artistic territory, cut through all the constructed narratives of rivalry and opposition that had surrounded them. Michael clasped the offered hand, and something passed between them in that brief connection. A recognition that transcended the simplistic categories of competition and hierarchy that external forces had imposed upon their relationship. As the house lights rose and the audience began to disperse, many in a state that concert veterans described as transcending ordinary post-performance euphoria, Michael and Prince exited the stage in opposite directions, returning to their separate orbits. Their paths would not cross again publicly before Prince's untimely passing in 2016. Making this unexpected moment of connection all the more significant in the context of their parallel legacies. If you've been moved by this glimpse into a legendary moment between two musical icons, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Together, we keep alive the memory of these rare instances when artistic brilliance transcends expectation to create something truly unforgettable. In the days and weeks that followed, the Madison Square Garden moment became a subject of reverent discussion throughout the music industry and beyond. Though CBS, which broadcast the concert special, chose not to include the unplanned segment, perhaps due to the complex rights issues it would have entailed, bootleg recordings circulated widely, their imperfect quality somehow enhancing rather than diminishing the raw authenticity of what had transpired. Music journalists struggled to find language adequate to describe not just the technical brilliance of the performance, but the emotional resonance of witnessing these two singular artists find momentary harmony after decades of parallel innovation. Cultural commentators noted how the moment had transcended entertainment to become a statement about the possibility of finding common ground across different approaches, perspectives, and public narratives. Neither Michael nor Prince addressed the moment directly in subsequent interviews, both artists being notoriously protective of their private thoughts and genuine interactions. This silence only enhanced the mythic quality that quickly surrounded the encounter, allowing it to exist in cultural memory not as a carefully managed public relations moment but as a rare instance of authentic connection between two intensely private artists whose public lives were otherwise defined by careful image management. Perhaps the most telling commentary came from a young musician who had been present that night and would later become a significant artist in his own right. "What I witnessed wasn't just two legends sharing a stage," he observed in a retrospective interview years later. "It was a moment of genuine recognition between two artists who had each created their own universe. For those few minutes, those separate universes overlapped, and we all got to exist in that overlap, a space where apparent opposites revealed their underlying harmony." In that observation lies perhaps the truest understanding of what transpired at Madison Square Garden on that September night in 2001. Beyond the spectacular performance, beyond the historic significance of the encounter, beyond even the emotional impact it generated, the moment represented something profound about artistic identity and human connection. The recognition that even the most distinctive individual expressions are connected by the universal language of creative truth when approached with genuine openness and respect. For those fortunate enough to have been present, the memory of those transcendent minutes when Michael Jackson and Prince found unexpected harmony continues to resonate as a reminder of what becomes possible when artificial boundaries dissolve. When competition gives way to communion, when challenge becomes invitation, and when different paths converge, however briefly, in the pursuit of a shared artistic truth that transcends all categories and comparisons.